Fran, thank you very, very much. Good morning. Good morning. It's a real pleasure to be here and just to be with a leader such as Fran Becker in his quest to want to be able to represent you and your families in this community. So I'm honored to be here. Rabbi Friedman, thank you very much. To the other rabbis, teachers here, it is an honor. And to all of you students, we are in a very, very critical time in this country. We've got 4 days before the November 10 midterm elections. These elections have received a lot of news coverage because, as you know, things around us in the greater New York area and throughout the country seem to be at a frenzied pace, and there is much concern about the direction of this country. So it couldn't be a better time. I salute Rabbi Friedman and the mission of this school to encourage you to be engaged in matters of civic affairs. This is your country. Hashem has blessed all of us as Jews to be Americans and to have the ability to practice our faith and to do what it is that we were put here on this earth to do. Let me share a brief story to you that I think speaks volumes about this group and Shalhevet and the high school's mission. When Prime Minister Netanyahu was Prime Minister of Israel the first time, he had gone on a state visit to China. And he was there with the Premier of China, and they were at this elaborate state dinner. And the Premier turned to the Prime Minister and asked him some questions about the Jewish people and the course of history. And the Premier said to Prime Minister Netanyahu, he says, it has always been a puzzling thing to me that if you look at the three ancient religions of the world, or the three most ancient people, and that is the Hindus, the Chinese, and the Jews, and you look at the numbers and the three great civilizations of the world, and it's just a stunning disparity. And Prime Minister Netanyahu looked at the Premier and didn't quite know what he was talking about. He says, no, you look at it, and there are 1 billion Chinese, there are about 1 billion Hindus, but currently there are only about 13 million Jews. And what the Premier said was, I can't quite figure out with those small numbers and all the great things that your civilization and people have done throughout the course of history. He said, just look at the number of Nobel Prize winners. Look at the number of industrial leaders. Look at the incredible accomplishments of your people. How could that be? And I think if we ask that question, that is because of gatherings like this, of schools such as those that you attend, that emphasize the importance of our being engaged, the importance of our learning and understanding not only the halacha and the laws of the Torah, but also the world around us and how we fit in. And it's because of that, because of the commitment that we have as a people to our faith, to Hashem, the commitment that we have as a people to Tikkun Olam, and the fact that that's been handed down over the generations. That would be my answer if I were sitting there at that dinner to the Premier of China. That is what sets the goal for us as Jews in this world. And if you think about it, we again are very blessed to be part of this incredible country called America. And right now, America and the very idea of what it stands for is being questioned. And in a way, this country has come to a crossroads. And this election that many of your parents will be voting in will determine the direction that this country goes. This country of ours is a very unique and exceptional place. And the reason I say that is This country has stood for all of us as a beacon of opportunity, as a place that we can, as Jews, practice our faith for the first time in history of the world without interference other than Israel. There's never been a country that allows us the freedom to be Jews and be who we are other than Israel. And it is that sense of the fact that there are no limits in America. There is no government telling us what religion we must practice. There is no government stopping us from practicing our religion. Again, a very novel concept in the course of history. And we have to protect that. And what we have seen over the last several years in Washington is not an abridging of that right for sure. But what we are beginning to see is a growth in the power of our central or federal government. And the more we empower a federal government, in my way of looking at things, the less individual freedoms you're going to have. What brought most of us to this country was a decision that our ancestors had made. In my case, my grandparents, who came, like many of yours, from Eastern Europe. And they made a decision to come and leave a place where there was anti-Semitism, persecution that prevailed. And they were lucky because they could escape and come to where there was a better life, an opportunity for them to live as Jews and to find themselves in a country where they could determine their future, not some government that decided some policy that set them back. Because remember, where they came from, because of where they lived, because of who their parents were, because of their faith, there was only but so far they could go. Only so much that they could accomplish. And that's different for us here. We have no limits. And so we don't want to empower a federal government to the point where it actually would take away our freedoms. Now again, I say unequivocally, there is no move to take away our First Amendment right to practice our religion. But there is a frightening trend in Washington where, of late, Washington has decided it wanted to tell us what kind of health care we should have rather than let our families decide. It has told and tried to tell this country how we should conduct ourselves, turning on lights, what kind of light bulbs to use, and the rest in terms of the energy outlook, versus allowing innovation and individuals to be able to choose more on their own. These are all questions of domestic policy that have really come to the fore of this election. Now, everybody I know could probably tell a story that somewhere around your kitchen table or in the neighborhoods in which you live, that there is discussion about the economy. Because this economy in America is suffering right now. Too many people are out of work. And if we as a country do not recover economically, we as a country will not be able to stand tall with our allies abroad. And one of the best friends and allies this country has is the State of Israel. And of late, the trend that we see coming out of Washington and this majority that is in power now is a trend that is concerning to me. Because we have begun to see a willingness to put Israel into a position of compromise. And whether it is the process that the press likes to call the peace process, and we've seen it now unravel, and whether it is to put Israel in a position as the only party that could ever deliver on any commitment in those talks. Again, Israel is in a dire time of need. Without the strength and abiding loyalty of the citizens of the United States, the modern-day state of Israel would be in even greater peril. Israel faces the most existential threat that it has faced since its modern-day inception in 1948, with the rise of the maniacal regime in Iran and its quest for nuclear weapons. And first and foremost, this country of ours must stand tall and say we will not tolerate an Iran armed with nuclear weapons. But by shifting the world's focus to pressuring Israel into compromising situations in the so-called peace process, what we have in essence done is taken a backseat or pushed the question of a nuclear Iran into secondary priority status. And that shouldn't be. We need to send a signal to our allies around the world and to those who are questioning the U.S. commitment to peace through strength, that we stand tall and never will we roll back our commitment to our allies, specifically Israel. Let me just leave you with this. In a very unique way, our role as Americans in this democracy and our role as Jews are in some way analogous. You know, we were all born, most of us, I assume in this room, born Jewish. It didn't necessarily entitle us to anything. We've always been taught that abiding by the 613 mitzvot is what life is about. The Torah gives us our roadmap. But we are to live a life of deeds and commitment to Hashem and our faith. In a very analogous way, we as Americans, and you when you become age of voting will vote, but right now, as students in the schools you attend, have an obligation in this democracy of ours to also step up, to live the life of an activist, to be engaged in your community, because without that, the freedoms that this country is built on will wither away. So in a very analogous way, our role as Americans can coexist as our commitment of Jews, as Jews. So I thank you, Rabbi, for the mission of Shalhevet, for the mission that you have imparted to the young people here. You are our future, and we look forward to a continued activist citizenry here in this room. And I know we're not in a political event, so I can't tell you or your parents how to go vote, but you can sort of guess how I would. So thank you very much.